Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, McNallie Money. For those of you who are new here, this channel is all about stocks, investment, and personal finance. Today we're going to be taking a look at a stock that's made some major headlines this week, none other than Beyond Meat. Before we get into the video, please take a second to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's jump right in. Okay guys, so you heard right. Today we're talking about Beyond Meat. Now this is a stock that I personally hold. It's been on my list in terms of videos that I wanted to make for a while. And when I heard about the big news this morning in the pre-market, I said, you know what, we've got to bump this up to the top of the list and we've got to talk about this stock today. So you can see here the market's closed for the day. Beyond Meat finished up $28 or nearly 18%. And it did open as high as $2.20 this morning, and then it kind of tapered off throughout the day. Now, if you look back only at a 1 month chart, you can see that we were close to $110 in January. So this company has nearly doubled, or very close to it, in just the last couple trading days. There was a big announcement from Kim Kardashian on her Instagram promoting Beyond Meat. They have pulled back a little bit for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about in the video itself. But coming off this big announcement today, we saw a huge upward movement, which prompted me, like I said, to get this video released today. Now, what was the announcement, you say? Well, PepsiCo and Beyond Meat have now partnered up. They're launching a joint venture, which they're calling the Planet Partnership, and they're looking to expand into the snacks and drink space. So along with this announcement, they actually have acquired SodaStream and Bear Snacks, which make fruit and vegetable chips. So obviously this is a huge opportunity for Beyond Meat. Pepsi is one of the largest global distributors of snacks, drinks, that type of thing. And this partnership will open up that entire distribution network to the Beyond Meat name, product line, and hopefully some new snacks and drinks like we talked about. So if we take a step back now and put the news release with Pepsi aside, I wanted to take a deeper dive into Beyond Meat itself, the history of the company, why I'm so bullish on this company, and some future potential opportunities that I think are ahead of them. So to start with, Beyond Meat is based in LA. It was created in 2009 by a gentleman named Ethan Brown. Now, what Ethan did was he actually reached out to two university professors who had been refining meatless protein for years. The duo had actually spent over a decade refining the taste, texture, smell, color, everything to do with soybean and pea proteins to get as close to the look and feel of real chicken as possible. It then took them another 5 years to come up with Beyond Meat's first product, which they launched as chicken-free strips. Now there's a lot of great information in here, but the one point I wanted to mention is the Tyson Foods ownership stake. So Tyson Foods, which we'll talk about here towards the end of the video, actually owned 5% of Beyond Meat in October of 2016. Now it sold this stake right before the company went IPO in 2019, which obviously, looking back, was a bad move, but we'll talk about why this is so important here in a few minutes. The other thing I wanted to point out here before we get into the investor deck itself is the R&D space that this company supports, which is over 26,000 and employs over 100 people. We'll look at their R&D spend compared to some other food producers, but this is very important, I think, and one of the main reasons that this company has differentiated itself in terms of innovation in this space. In 2019, they joined up with Dunkin' Donuts. They then launched with McDonald's in 2020. And most recently here in 2021, announced a partnership with Taco Bell. And we'll get into a lot of these partnerships and announcements here further in the video, but I wanted to point them out here in the initial slide. So as we move along, we're now going to jump into the products themselves. So we're on the Beyond Meat website. I wanted to start here with the tacos because of that exciting Taco Bell announcement just recently in 2021. If we go up the list, they also have Italian sausages, which my wife and I are a huge fan of these. They taste exactly like sausage. We like the hot Italian personally, and just like the picture here, great for pasta sauces and stuff like that. They've also got ground beef type products, so you can make anything you would with normal ground beef or ground chicken or ground turkey or whatever the case is, kebabs, burgers, that type of thing. Then they have their classic burger itself, which is pre-formulated patties. The cool thing about this is not only do they taste like meat, but they actually look, feel, smell exactly like the real product. They've even gone so far to put beet juice in so it appears like the meat is bleeding itself. Then they've got their traditional burger, and if we move up the line here, they're getting into the breakfast space, so breakfast sausages, things like that. Meatballs, again, for sauces, whatever the case. And the main thing here, you guys, is they continue to innovate. The other nice thing they've done on their website is actually put recipes, so you can go in here and get inspired to cook with their products. They're very upfront with all their ingredients, and we'll talk about some of the macro trends that are driving this industry in a second. But the ingredients and the green planet movement are a huge driver to this company's success. So next up, we talked about the innovation at the core of this company and how the 2 university professors were founding members. This slide's important because I really want people to understand this company doesn't just emulate meat products. They actually put in the research and the science behind it to figure out how these products are made, the composition of meat itself, and then do their best to replicate it in their products. So you can see here, even down to the sound of the meat, but they look at every single different element so that the end user is getting that exact same experience through a plant-based alternative. As we scroll down, you can see here some of the main macro trends that are pushing this company forward. So obviously global warming and healthy living and animal rights are huge popular concepts right now in our world, and this company seems to have all of them at its core. So if we take a quick look here, 42% reduced risk of heart failure compared to people who eat red meat-based diets. CO2, 18 to 51% of greenhouse gases in the world are emitted by livestock. So over half of CO2, which obviously contributes to global warming, comes from animals and farming or raising those animals. On top of that, nearly 80% of agricultural land right now is used for grazing. And then the final point they mention here is the actual number of animals that are saved by eating these products. And they estimate 60 to 70 billion farm animals are killed each year for food consumption purposes. Now, if you look at any one of these 4 topics as a standalone initiative, they're pretty powerful. And when you combine all 4, I really think it provides an extremely strong tailwind for companies such as Beyond Meat. Now, if we jump ahead to the innovation slide here, and once again, this is in the company investor presentation, which you've heard me talk about many times before, you can see that Beyond Meat spends nearly 7% of their net revenue towards R&D. So research and development takes up nearly 7% of their overall net revenue, compared to the traditional food producers, which are in the neighborhood of 1 to 0.2%. And again, here we see Tyson Foods, which we'll talk about moving forward. But you can tell that this company has positioned itself as a forward-thinking, innovative food company compared to a lot of these legacy giants that just don't have innovation at their core. And I think this is really what's going to propel this company forward, continue to build on its growth, and make this an industry leader in the near future here. The next slide I wanted to point out looks at more of the traditional financials. So you can see here, when we talk about TAM, or total addressable market, it really doesn't get much bigger than the food industry. So the global meat industry right now is estimated at $1.4 trillion, and the US alone is $270 billion. So Beyond Meat actually did start in the States, like we talked about. It's an LA-based company, but they've expanded globally at an extremely fast rate. And we're going to look at their point of sale and distribution network in the next couple slides. But the US market alone is an absolutely massive potential here. And when we look back at their market cap of about $10 billion, you can see they're really just scratching the surface. Now, if you look at their growth rates, you can see here revenue is up 240% year over year from 2018 to 19. Their manufacturing capacity has gone up 200% as well. They have now over 42,000 US food outlets and over 122,000 total worldwide outlets. Now, if we take a look at revenue in terms of dollars, they're at 88 million in 2018, up to nearly 300 million in 2019, and they'll be well above 400 million for 2020. In terms of year-over-year growth, you can see here the trend is moving up and to the right, which is great to see. So we talked about Tyson Foods a little bit in the first couple slides in terms of their 5% stake in Beyond Meat. We also looked at their percentage spend on research and development in terms of net revenue. But what I wanted to point out in this slide here is, number one, if we pull up a 5-year chart, they really haven't done a lot in terms of share price over the last couple years. And I think that is truly correlated with their innovation. These type of companies are slow and steady, they're well established, and they really don't have any desire to innovate or change their product samplings. Now, if we divert our attention over to market cap here, you can see they're sitting just north of 24 billion. And the reason I wanted to point this out is just to show the comparative size or relative size of some of these more well-established food giants versus where Beyond Meat is at right now in their growth cycle. You can see they do pay a dividend just under 3%, which a lot of well-established companies do. And then if we take a look down here, annually, they're just north of about $40 billion in revenue, and earnings are looking in the range of about $500 million. So if we now take a look at the actual retail outlets or distribution network of Beyond Meat, you can see here at the left, during the time of IPO, they had about 31,000 total outlets worldwide, with nearly 30,000 of those, 29,500, within the US themselves. And then the total international represented about 1,650 outlets. If we fast forward now to 2020, you can see they're up well over 120,000 total outlets. But the real number I wanted to draw your attention to here is the international retail growth, which is up 22,000% since IPO. This is absolutely unheard of, and this is the number one reason I'm so bullish on this company. Every single one of these stores, when people go in and they try a Beyond Meat product, they're going to talk to their friends. They're going to say, hey, I tried this plant-based burger today at McDonald's, or this plant-based taco, or whatever the case is, and it tasted just like real meat. Those people are in turn going to go out and try it for themselves, and next time they see it in the grocery store, more than likely they're going to try and pick it up for their family. This directly bleeds into brand awareness, so you can see here again, brand awareness from IPO until 2020 is up nearly 300%, and this is just spreading exponentially at this point. So if we then take a look at these retail services themselves, you can see the amount of big name companies that are now pushing Beyond Meat in their stores. So if we talk about retail, Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco, the names really don't get a lot bigger than this. Whole Foods, obviously, where a lot of health conscious customers shop. You can see here, year over year, net revenues from retail have jumped from $94 to $202 million. Now, food services and international have actually seen their growth rates slow down tremendously in 2020. So you can see they're up $1 million here in the US, and they're actually down year over year internationally. And I think this is why the company had pulled back up until today's announcement with Pepsi, because analysts were a little bit concerned that growth rates weren't keeping up with estimations. However, I think this is purely related to COVID. I think this is a short-term situation, and I think this will bounce back almost immediately as COVID, vaccinations, that type of thing begin to go out and people begin to resume normal life. So if we want to talk about some of the names in here, you can see Carl's Jr., Dunkin' Donuts, Denny's. These are obviously well-established national brands that everybody is familiar with. And then if we look out internationally, you can see companies such as A&W, Loblaws here in Canada, Starbucks. Again, very well-known companies, worldwide brands, and I think this is just a lull or a pullback based on external factors. I don't think this has anything to do with the brand itself or the company moving forward. So the next slide really summarizes those three different sales channels, and you can see here net revenues were up only 2.7% year over year. Still $94 million, so getting close to that $100 million per quarter mark, but I think this number here is really what had analysts scared off and presented that buying opportunity. Now we're going to talk in the next slide about my personal holdings and how I'm playing this position, but I do think that there's still some opportunity to get into this name. Potentially, you may need to wait for a little pullback after the Pepsi news. However, based on the total addressable market, which we talked about previously, I feel like this company is just really entering the big leagues here and is poised for some big growth. Profit margin, you can see here, is sitting around 30%. And this leads us into my price prediction for this company. So if we think about a Tyson Foods, which currently has a market cap of about 24 billion, which is essentially double what we see in Beyond Meat, and then we take a look back at the total addressable market within the United States sitting at 270 billion, essentially we're saying Tyson Foods is worth about 1/10 of the US market cap in terms of overall meat category. Now we've talked about Beyond Meat in terms of being set up as a global competitor with a global retail distribution network. So if we start talking in the trillions here in terms of the global meat category, you can quickly see that Beyond Meat, sitting at 10, 12, $14 billion market cap, is really just scratching the surface of this type of industry and represents a fraction of the total addressable market. So in my personal opinion, I can easily see Beyond Meat moving into that 20, 30, $40 billion market cap space over the next 5 years, which essentially means it can grow anywhere from 200 to 300% from current market cap value without any major external partnerships, joint ventures, or any other unknown news currently. So to close out today's video, I did want to share with everyone my personal position in Beyond Meat. As you can see here, I currently have 10 shares at an average price of $132.64. So with today's close, I'm up close to 41% or $541 on this position. Now, in addition to these 10 shares that I have open, I actually went ahead and closed out on 7 shares today, right towards the start of the day. So I was able to get out at $2.12 per share. I had a feeling throughout the day shares may pull back a little bit. This was kind of a sell-on news situation. I have every intent of buying these shares back and potentially adding to this position, but I thought I may be able to get them a little bit cheaper, which it looks like I might be able to do tomorrow. So I did want to share that for full disclosure. So at the start of the day, I had 17 shares. I currently hold 10, and I sold out on 7. That basically wraps up today's video today, guys. Obviously, huge, exciting news for Beyond Meat and Pepsi. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day.